All right. Hello, and welcome back to Influential Dental, the podcast that's bringing you the human interest stories behind the people who have become very successful in this industry. And we are so excited about our guest today, who is not only somebody we consider a friend, but somebody who's extremely influential and has some incredible contributions he's making to this industry. But before I introduce him, I'm going to introduce my lovely co-host, Michael Keeter. Hey, Mike. Thanks for
Hey,
joining us from Las Vegas, right? In
yes,
your
Julian.
hotel room.
Yes. It's a lot of dark, so sorry. It looks like I'm in a bunker, but no, thank you very much, and very happy to be here and speak with our guest, Dr. Sree Koka, and look forward to a wonderful conversation. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to have Sree give a little introduction to himself. I refer to him as Dr. Koka because he earned it, but he does have an incredible career. And there's a lot that I think we're going to unpack today. What I think is the most funny is that you guys are both in hotel rooms with beds behind you. And I feel a little left out, like I should be in a room with a bed behind me. And so considering like grabbing the camera and running into my bedroom, but I guess since we're all here as we are, we'll run with this. So Dr. Koka, welcome. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule, doing so many different things and helping so many different people and companies and patients and all of it, to be here with us to share a little bit of your background and your story. You have very advanced degrees, not only in dentistry, but in leadership. And you've done so many different things with your career and you've worked in so many areas. Would you mind giving a little introduction, a little background to who you are, for anybody who maybe doesn't know you, who isn't like us seeing you on stages all over the planet?
First, thank you both very much for having me. It's quite an honor to be on your podcast series, so thank you. I was born and raised in the UK. My mum and dad were immigrants from India. My dad's a dentist, and I was raised in the UK. And when I was 19, I immigrated to the States and began my university training. So spent all that time since then over here in America, except for 1 year where I moved back to Europe and worked in Switzerland. But for the most part, I've been here in America, and I've been very lucky. I mean, I've had a great education at university, became a prosthodontist, and then I went into academics for a while, loved that. Then worked at the Mayo Clinic for a while, loved that. Then I went back to Europe and then came back and opened a practice in San Diego, California, and ran my own practice for about 7 years. And then got offered the chance to go back to academics and be a dean of a dental school, which I did for 3 years until last year. And now I'm doing something else. I'm now chasing my passion for teaching leadership to people across the globe and in all walks of life who are serious about being better leaders and would like to learn a little bit more. So I've been very lucky. I've had a truly blessed life. I've done lots and lots of things and met some great people along the way, like both of you. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, thank you for that background. And Mike, you introduced me. And so what's your history? How do you guys get to know each other?
Yeah, no, I've known Sree for, gosh, many years, probably going on over 10 now, and met him in his private practice in San Diego and got to work with him as I advanced through my career at Noble Biocare. And when I was director of training education, got to do a tremendous event in Mahwah, New Jersey with Sree and a bunch of leaders throughout not only dentistry, but others outside of it. And I would like you to talk a little bit about that, Sree, on what that program was. But that's when he included me in this amazing few days and got to really know him as a person. And you'll fall in love with him after you hear his podcast today. But then also, if you do a little research and check out his TED Talk, which Julieanne, you both had, and I just watched that the other day and was inspired with it all over again. So yeah, we go way back. I spent some time, have broken some bread, and again, we're all happy that you're here with us today.
Yeah, speaking of bread, broken bread, we were all at Jim Glidewell's mansion party, right? When I have to share. Do you mind if I share this story? Show you.
Go right ahead.
So I don't even know what happened because the only part I remember is the part that was most shocking of it. But you had a plate of food and it slipped on the floor. And although there were, I don't even know how many people at this party, you were willing to just bed down, pick it up and eat it. And it wasn't just like any food. It was like shrimp. And I just remember going, I literally, not only did I have, feelings about it because it kind of like wouldn't be the thing I would do, but moreover, I was so impressed by you just being so human, being so not wasteful. So what is that about? Where does that side of you come from that you're just so humble? Like you are one of those people who's just, really, really down to earth and really I just am so impressed by your character.
That's awfully sweet of you to say. I think if somebody's humble, they wouldn't know what to do with the compliment. And I'm really not sure what to do with the compliment. But do you know there's some research that's been done about the 5-second rule? And it turns out that if the food is relatively dry, it's okay to eat it off the floor. But if it's really wet and it picks up bugs, then you shouldn't do it. And the shrimp was dry enough. So I was like, to heck with it. This is shrimp. I'm just going to pick it up and eat it. So there
He
you
was
go.
testing the quality of the shrimp, whether or not it was dry or not.
Yeah,
I
yeah, it
love
was
it. Yeah.
perfect.
Well, you had us literally laughing, and I don't know that we were drinking at that or not, but I don't think we were. And we were laughing so hard as though we had had maybe a bottle of champagne or something. But it was really super fun for me to kind of get to know this other side of you that was just, a very, very, just very different. And it was just really lovely. So, yeah. So, Mike, I'm sorry, I kind of jumped on. You had some questions about his background with the event that you met him at.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was very interesting, not only as a dentist and very successful prosthodontist, but Dr. Koka has always been about leadership and empowering others to lead and to level up, which we do, Julieanne, with Influential Dental. And that was very engaging with me and how I saw him treat other people, as you had seen that at the dinner that night. And what I saw as well is someone who truly does care about others. And there were people just out of dental school, there were deans at this event, there were business people, and he treated everyone the same, and me as well as someone that was running training education. So I really appreciated that. And also the background is Dr. Koka's background is fascinating. Having going to MIT, which hopefully we can touch on, but then his background in dentistry as well, and now with his new company and leadership. So again, just full circle, very humble, very kind, and as we look to level up others, he does as well.
Yeah. So, Dr. Koka, tell us a little bit about what you're doing with leadership because, that's a fascinating topic for us. And so I'm curious what you're doing and why leadership, why was that of interest? I know that you've got some background in it, but what led you into that?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's funny because for many years in my career, I didn't want anything to do with leadership. I just wanted to teach my students, do my research, take care of my patients, and I was almost avoiding it. And then the first opportunity came along almost by chance at Mayo Clinic. Mayo has this general policy that no leader stays in their position longer than 8 years, so that new blood can bring ideas through. Good people maybe stay because they see that there's a path for them to move up the organization. And if you've done a really good job, you're probably burned out at some point. So to give people new challenges. So I'd been there 3 years when my chair rotated out after his 8 years were up, and I sort of happened to get appointed to this position. And I hadn't really thought about ever being a chair or having that kind of job. And suddenly you realize, I can fix teeth, but I know nothing about leading people. And one of the sentences that really struck me during our new chairs orientation workshop was from the CEO at the time, Dennis Cortese. And Dennis said, he goes, you may not want to hear this, but in my opinion, the best leaders feel responsible for everybody and everything. And it sort of hits home how leadership is really about service. It's really about taking care of and feeling responsible for the people and whatever the mission is that you're supposed to be leading, right? And then I thought, well, I don't know how to do this. I mean, we let people practice dentistry all the time, only after they've been to dental school. But then people practice management and leadership with no education. It seems a bit crazy. So that's sort of what drew me back to getting an MBA. And as Mike, you alluded to, I was super lucky to get into MIT. And that really opened up my mind to the science and the art of leadership and wanting to learn more. And then as I learned it, I thought, oh, I wish I could teach this to others because Stephen Covey said, leaders choose to be leaders. You're not born or made. And if there are other people out there that would like to be leaders and do better in their lives and have a bigger and better impact, then maybe we could teach some of the skills that would help them do that. And that's really sort of where the idea of beginning to teach leadership came from.
Yeah, I love it. So if you had like one leadership skill that you think is something you could impart on people just in a podcast beyond taking responsibility for everybody, what would be something that you would say to people? What would be like one of those, sort of standout qualities that you see or that you would notice that would tell you somebody is a leader or a natural born leader?
Yeah. So I like to go back to Jim Collins' book, Good to Great. And in that book, they talk about this classification of leadership, and they mention level 5 leaders. And they say there's 2 qualities that make somebody a level 5 leader above all the other things that sort of lead up to that. And those 2 qualities are actually a word you mentioned earlier, humility, and the other one is perseverance. You don't quit. And I would say maybe even more important than that is that you really do have this servant's heart, that the mission is really the most important thing, and that you are trying to never quit in the pursuit of that mission, but also you're very humble in how you try and bring your team along to reach that mission. And so it's really not about you. It's always about the mission first and then your people second. And I think there are people who really want to be that kind of leader. Now, sometimes there's outside pressures that sort of make it hard to do that, and that's a tough side of leadership. That's a dark side of leadership. But I think those qualities of that servant mindset, never quitting, and being humble in the pursuit of the mission and taking care of your people, those would be the keys, I think.
Yeah, I have a question regarding that in relation to dentistry, right? As our podcast states, influential dental, and I think leaders are influential just as being leaders. But why is that so important in dentistry, and how has that shaped you as a younger dentist? And then also how you inspire and teach dentists as well on how to be leaders to themselves, to their patients, and to their teams.
Yeah, it's a great question. So we're very lucky, I think, in healthcare in that we have a built-in super noble purpose, right? We're there to take care of people. Not everybody actually has that in their daily work, or it's harder to find that. But we have this innate, built-in, amazing purpose for us to go to work every day. So I think leading towards that purpose, we're actually in a good spot. The hard part comes with all the daily work that you have to do in order to get there. And when you're in the service industry, it's very satisfying, but it's also really hard because every person that you're trying to take care of is different. And here we have, as dentists, we have patients that we're supposed to be taking care of, but then we have our team that we're also supposed to be taking care of. And taking care of both of those entities is not easy. In fact, it's really challenging. And so that's why sort of learning how to become a better leader allows you to take care of both of those groups in ways that allows you to enjoy your work more. A team that's engaged is more busy, more productive, more profitable. Everybody wins, whether you believe in it just from the humanistic side or whether you believe in it from the business financial outcome side. Both of those reasons are really valid for investing in your people so that they can then take care of your patients.
I love that. It's interesting. So I used to run these leadership retreats for dentists, and we would take everyone to Sundance and spend 3 days in a cabin and knock out their business plan and stretch their goals and do all this team training and these different things. And I just remember when we would go through the process of, really trying to engage people into, being interested in taking the course, I would hear over and over, it was a recurring theme that people would say, oh, dentists have no interest in leadership. Dentists are not going to come to a leadership retreat. Don't expect dentists to enroll in leadership. And in fact, the guys that I did this with for years, they used to go back and forth. Do we need to call it something else? Do we need to pretend like we're not teaching leadership to get them to come? So what are your thoughts on that? I mean, is that changing? Do you see that shifting heavily now where people are more and more interested in leadership?
So that's another good question. I think in general, there is this concept of the curse of good enough, or I would almost argue the curse of intentional mediocrity at times, where you're so confident in your technical skills that, and you're making do, you're getting by. To reach the level of being a fantastic business requires great leadership. But maybe you feel like, well, I'm doing okay. I don't want to go and learn this other area that I don't know that much about. And do I really want to do this? But I think the people who are striving for excellence understand that whatever you call it, if they can lead their teams better, they will not only enjoy their career themselves better, but everybody does better, whether it's on emotional terms or whether it's on financial terms. And so you're right. I don't think it's going to work for everybody because some people are just going to say, nah, it's not my cup of tea. I'm doing okay. And, even with your series, you're trying to influence the people who are willing to be influenced, right?
Yeah,
And
we're always like
part of the
offered to
game,
those ready for it, right?
exactly, exactly. And part of the game is trying to talk to the people who are already sensitive, but also try and get a few other people to come along and go, huh, maybe, just maybe I should be doing a little bit more in this area. And then you're ready with open arms for them to help them through the door, right?
Go ahead, Mike.
No, what I was going to say is, I agree with that. And not only because I think what people repel that or maybe not embrace their leadership or embrace their influences, they think, one, they can't do it, or it's going to be extra work, or it's going to be some sort of painful, or it's going to be some sort of cost, right? But in fact, I think if you look at it in smaller increments and just say, hey, just small changes, or to be yourself, to be transparent, to lead from the front, the middle, or the back, it doesn't matter. But the fact is, like you said, that it's going to be ultimately what benefits the team, the entirety of the office, and obviously the patients, right? So I think you're right. It's about pulling those leadership skills or those influential skills out of everyone, because I do think they're in there, right? It's just finding them and what motivates them to do better and be better.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, everything you guys are talking about definitely resonates with me. I of course love leadership. I feel like almost all high achievers figure out a way to implement these skills, and if they're not, then they're hiring a right-hand person to do it for them. And so, what are your thoughts on somebody, dividing and conquering if they have no interest?
Oh, so this is you pushed a button here. Do I have the button on my forehead? So what I like to say is that there are certain things as a leader that you can delegate. You can delegate scheduling, and you can delegate marketing, and you can delegate ordering of supplies. But the one thing that I don't think you can delegate as a leader is your relationship with your people. And you can learn how to be really good at that. The science says some people think, well, I'm shy or I'm introverted. It means I'm not going to be a good leader. But the science doesn't say that. The science says the qualities we talked about before, never quitting, being humble, and having a servant's mindset, they have nothing to do with whether you're extroverted or introverted. There are introverts who are fantastic leaders, and there are extroverts who are fantastic leaders. So sometimes people think, well, leaders are born, not made. But no, if you can learn this stuff, it can be taught and it can be learned, just like we learned how to be dentists. Some of us went into dental school with completely different levels of natural talent, right? But we made the commitment that we wanted to be good and that we were going to practice it and we were going to get an education in it so that then we felt comfortable actually doing the work. It's the same with leadership. Yeah, it is work. It is work, but it's
Which are
joyous
you? And
work. Yeah.
I'm curious, are you the introvert or the extrovert? Because I actually don't know.
So when I did the Myers-Briggs, I was right in the middle. I was just a little bit E, just a little bit E. And the guy said to me, he goes, if you had answered one question differently, you could have flipped into I. So he goes, so I find that I love people, but I also like my quiet time.
Yeah, agreed. I'm right there with you. I'm definitely an extrovert, but as I've aged, I swear as I get older, I'm more and more introverted, and I love my alone time more than I've ever. And I'm starting to see that, when I really go out there and spend a lot of time with people, I have to have recovery time now. And I didn't used to have to. I would just fill up on that stuff before. Mike, you're obviously an extrovert. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, no, and no, I agree with you. As I get older or I'm learning more, I do go back and forth to just step back and to learn and to reflect and to be quiet because I am an extrovert and have been. But I'm going to change gears a little bit if you don't mind, Julianne and Sree. Is I want to talk about the young Sree, right? The one that's wide-eyed and the world's coming at him, and you don't know you're going to be a dentist, but what are the things, either people, places, events that have shaped you and made you the influential person you are and the leader you are? I'm just curious because there have to have been some things in your life that have done that, and some influential people that you can say, helped you find your passion to be the person you are.
Yeah, I mean, the most important person is my mother. Mum's very humble. She was always looking out for other people, and she always felt very grateful and very blessed for what she had in life, and sort of felt like she had this obligation then to give back. And I think I've inherited a lot of those quotes and qualities from her, and seeing her model those. It makes me happy to think that to try and be like Mum is a good thing. And so I think she's been the main influence for me as a child growing up. Then I think you have people who, during your lifetime, they believe in you. I often say the biggest gift a mentor can give someone is that they believe in you. And because they believe in you, they do things for you to help you, hoping that you'll be the person that they're hoping you'll be. But now that I'm at this age and I have people who ask me to mentor them, I think or two things that separated me a little bit back then was that I was willing to trust their advice, even when I couldn't see exactly why they were telling me to do something. And number two, I was teachable. And someone told me the other day, somebody asked Steph Curry what has made him so successful. And he says, I'm coachable, I'm teachable. And I think there's a lot of people who gain comfort from knowing a lot. And if that comfort brings them so much, I don't know, stability that then they don't want to keep learning, it can be problematic. And I've always been curious, and I've always had people around me that are willing to say, hey, do you want to go try this? You might want to try this. And like even doing my PhD, I mean, I sat there and I thought, do I really want to do this? This is going to be a lot of work. And I had 3 or 4 mentors who said to me, we understand that you may not see exactly why this is going to help you, but we want you to trust us. Pursue this PhD. It will open doors for you. It will allow you to have opportunities that you would never have otherwise. So I got to admit, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go do it because, and so I think those types of things have really kind of shaped me in terms of my mentors and then my mom.
Yeah, so I have a question. I always like to chime in on the flip side of whatever Mike asks. So, what are some major obstacles you've overcome? Have there been some things that have come up in your career? Because sometimes I think we see people out there succeeding and they're having just like this incredible career, and we feel like we're alone with our problems, right? And so I always am curious, people who are in these positions of power, if you will, even though you operate with humility, of course, but there's got to be some things you've faced in your career. Are you willing to share any of that?
Sure, absolutely. I think that, if you're going to go into leadership, if you're going to live through life, that you're going to have these crucible moments that really test you. And as you come through them, they will be either really hard or really, really hard to accept. And one of the things that you have to do is look at your own role into what led to that crucible event happening. And I can think of many things. So I remember my sisters and I sitting down at the dinner table a few years ago with our nieces and our nephews, and we started telling them about our hardships in our careers. And they looked at us like, but you're so successful. We assumed that it was just always easy for you. And we were like, no, no, no. We've had some really tough times that we've had to kind of get through. I almost flunked out of dental school. I mean, I had really bad hands that took years of practice to do well. And so I failed a lot of my preclinical practicals in dental school. I tell people this story that at the end of freshman year at Michigan, if you were really bad, you had to stay 2 extra weeks for remediation. And there were only a few of us in the class that had to do that. And I was one of that group, right? And if you flunked the exam at the end of those 2 weeks, you were done. You had to restart over. So we've had to overcome these things. I'd say there's those technical challenges that we go through where it requires practice. Then there's another set of challenges, which I think are the emotional ones, where you end up in a pickle or in a situation that you didn't want because your values say one thing and the organization or the environment that you're in, its values say something else. And you can practice your way out of the technical challenges, but you can't practice your way out of the values mismatch because that's a core value typically, right? And it's who you are. So a year ago yesterday is the anniversary of me being fired as a dean, for example. And that was really hard. This last year, I mean, I got fired last May. My mother passed away in November, and you've already heard me talk about my mother. So 24 was a tough year. But the firing, it's really easy when you have a crucible like that to blame everybody else. And not that there might not be valid reasons to feel that you've been aggrieved, but you do also have to look at your own role and what led to that. So I think yes, I've learned from my really tough, dark moments that there are dark moments, and that your ability to come through them really often depends upon your ability to see things in context, to be grateful for what you have, not focus on what you've lost, and then look at your own role and how you can learn from it, despite the pain.
What would
It's
you
hard.
say to somebody who misaligns with their values, and you see this happening all over the map, but they're too scared to make a change, and so they shrink, they quiet themselves, they quiet their voice to hold on to the paycheck? Any advice for somebody that's going through that?
Yeah, I mean, those are real reasons to be cautious, right? I mean, you've got a family to take care of. You've got some real bottom line stuff that you have bills to pay, might have reputation on the line. You've got your own sort of feelings about yourself. There's a quote from a good friend of mine, Mijin Choi. Mijin's actually president of the Academy of Prosthodontics at this meeting where I am right now. And Mijin once said to me years ago, she goes, Sree, I don't fear failure, but I fear regret. And I think it's a very powerful line. And she has changed my life with this quote. So I now choose the path of least regret, and I'm willing to accept it. I might have to give up other things, but now that knowing myself the way I do, I don't want to get to the end of my life and say, okay, I didn't do this because of the fear of that. I would rather say, okay, I took the path of least regret. I was willing to accept the consequences, but I feel better about myself and the life I've lived. But I completely understand when people say, I feel trapped. I don't know that I can do this. I think most people can. I think most people have more courage and more skill than they give themselves credit for. But sometimes they need someone to believe in them and give them a chance and maybe be a safety net for them. And some people are happy going with no net, and some people need free nets. But whatever it is, if you can find that to allow yourself to go dip your toe in the water, you will then be proud of yourself and you'll have fewer regrets later.
Yeah, no, that's nice. And a question I have is, well, I want to know personally because this is amazing, and thank you. Is what does Sree Koka do for fun, other than work hard and teach and empower others? But what are some hobbies or some fun things that you do to either refocus yourself or just to relax? I'm just curious, and I'm sure the folks out there would love to hear what you do to have fun and to relax.
Well, I don't know if I should admit this in this forum, but I'm a big Detroit Lions fan, so I'm always rooting for the Detroit Lions through thick or thin, mainly thin, except for the last couple of years. I tell people I was at the game in Green Bay when we went 0-16, last game of the season. So I've been there at the bottom at Lambeau Field, and now I'm happy to see us do well. I love to run. I love to play sports and watch some sports. I like to read. A couple of nights ago, you would have found me kind of binge watching Jack Ryan on Amazon Prime, the latest series. So yeah, that's the kind of stuff I like. Yeah.
That's nice. I love that you do more than just work and lead people. And I've been watching the same show, and I'm a big sport and football fan too. So that makes me smile and laugh. So, Julianne, did you have something to add to that?
Well, I mean, I have like 1,000 questions, right? I can't help it. But I love your questions because they're a little bit more fun and lighthearted. No, I think it's interesting. So you're doing leadership, but I don't think that our listeners know that you actually do this formally now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so can you tell us a little bit about that, how you formalized a career with respect to this, and how do you balance that with your practice life
Yeah.
or
So
clinical, I guess?
Yeah. So when I met Mike, it was as part of a series of leadership workshops that a colleague of mine, Neil Garrett, and I sort of founded about 12 years ago. So we started these 2-day leadership workshops for people early, mid-career who wanted to know more about leadership. And we wanted to expose them to some basic elements and bring people together so they could create a network of like-minded people in a non-threatening, kind of safe environment. And I'll be honest, we've been stunned at how well this has kind of taken off. We feel like we've got a good little recipe there. And people would often say to me, well, we want more. What comes next? And I was always too busy to do the what comes next. And then, to be honest, getting fired maybe was the catalyst for me to sit back and go, maybe this is the time. So the last year, I've worked with 2 other colleagues to form a company to start teaching these things that relate to the human-centered side of leadership, the stuff that I feel like you cannot delegate, to people from any industry. And so people that I've met over my lifetime, ask them to be faculty and create a 1-year program that has an online component to it and then has a coaching component to it that makes it a little bit different, but then also has this in-person 2-day leadership workshop. And our faculty come from all industries. We have a former Navy SEAL, we have a professional golfer, major champion, we have people from healthcare, we have people from pharma, we have people from just different industries who share their learnings so that then people who go through the program can come out the other side knowing not just what it takes to be successful, but what it takes to lead people well, how to go through the tough times, how to get some resilience. Is it an MBA? No, it's not designed to be an MBA. It's designed for someone who wants to know more and learn more, kind of on their own terms in terms of schedule, but not have to go through the cost and the time of a formal MBA program. Maybe one day they'll go on and do that.
If one of our listeners or all of our listeners want to get involved, first of all, do you offer this to, it's every level, it sounds like, right? Because you've got former Navy SEALs and they've obviously gone through leadership training. Some of the greatest tips I've heard over my years have been through, what they teach in the Navy SEAL training program. And I work with an Olympic athlete. And so it's really interesting because you can pull in all of these things that people learn, what made people excel at that level and have the endurance, right? But do you find yourself learning a lot from them, and how do people reach out to you and contact you if they're interested in being a part of that?
Well, if they're interested, our website is www.thesweetspotleader.com. So it's thesweetspotleader.com. And you bring up this sort of learning from others. So we have 5 online courses, and with each of the courses, most of the courses, we have 3 or 4 faculty. So we bring the faculty together to discuss the content for the course. And by the end of that session, the faculty members are going crazy. Like, I want to hear what you have to say. So you've got Dottie Pepper, major golf champion, and hopefully one day a future Hall of Famer, saying, oh, I cannot wait to hear from you, Brett Kessler, the current president of the ADA, about his story as a recovered alcoholic, and then also learn from Leah Buccerio, who's a lawyer who represented many people who lost family in the Miami Surfside building collapse and her professional transformation. And they're all speaking in the course, along with Steve Melgazo, the former director of strategy for the Navy SEALs. And they're all the faculty for the course on how do you prepare yourself inside to be the best leader that you can be, leading from within. So you're right. I'm now listening to them going, oh, I cannot wait. And so, and they're excited to learn from each other. And so we have 4 other courses kind of like that, with different faculty bringing their unique high-level perspectives, but in a very grounded way so that they can impart what they know to anyone in their life.
Yeah. So, Mike, do you have a follow-up on that?
Yeah, no, what I like and what you've said, and I believe that as well, is one, you can always learn at whatever level you're at, right? To be a lifelong learner. And I think that's very important in dentistry, right? You could be the best clinical dentist or specialist that you can be, or professional, but, are you deficient in something else? Can you learn from something else? In leadership, in influence, how to manage finances, how to, take care of yourself better. So I would encourage, as you're doing with this company and you've always done, and what we talk about as well, is to be that lifelong learner, to pick up a pearl here and there, to put yourself out there, to meet other people, to be vulnerable. And, I've learned a lot from, Julieanne over the years. And I met her a little over 9 years ago, and we've, been friends and worked together. And then, now we have a podcast and company, and I think that's very exciting. It's because of that. It's because of putting myself out there and being vulnerable to learn more and to be more and to be pushed. So what you say resonates with me as well. So I just encourage people to do that because you never know. And like you said, Sree, I don't know how old you are. It doesn't matter. But the fact is, you've been on here working for a while and have seen a lot, done a lot. And like you said, now you're finding your new calling. And it's happened later in life for you, and it may, for any of us, happen later in life like it has for me as well.
Yeah, I have a question on that specifically, actually. So it's interesting because, I think, I heard something once where they said people get happier with age. And I don't know if you found this to be true or not, but they say that they believe people shift from doing all the time into more being, if you will, right? But all of us here are doing while we're trying to be at the same time, I think, as we get older. What is your take on that concept that we get happier as we age?
So I'll give you another quote, which is by William Carey, who said, "I'm not afraid of failure. I'm afraid of succeeding at the things that don't matter." And so what I think's happened to me with age is I love doing, but what I've learned is that over the years, if I can make sure that I'm doing things that matter to me, then I'm happier. It's the doing of the crap that brings you no joy. That we have stuff. If we can change that ratio, then as you get older and you get wiser, you're like, I don't think I actually have to do that, and I actually want to spend my time on this. You become happier, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, okay. So, what do you say to people who literally don't know what matters to them? Like, I've met more people who, and, I have my own way of taking them down the rabbit hole, but I'm curious somebody that's in a leadership role and you come to somebody or they come to you and they say, you know what, I've lost my spark. I don't know what matters. How do you help them with that? What do you say to them?
Well, first, I think you have to be very respectful about all the possible reasons why somebody's feels that way. And I don't know that you ever want to judge. You need to kind of give people a space to just be who they want to be at that time. I think there's a lot of pressures out there that people feel, or that they can put on themselves, or society puts on them, or their family. And those pressures can be really overwhelming at times. I think, another quote, Mark Twain says the two most important days in your life are that day you were born and that day you find out why. And I think a lot of people don't have the freedom to truly embrace that second day, that why, because they've got too many other pressures on them saying it can't be that. And I think that can be one reason why maybe people do feel a lot of pressure and overwhelmed, because they're spending all this energy on stuff that's not important to them. Um, the other reason is they know what their why is and they won't admit it to themselves. That happens sometimes too, because to admit it to yourself might mean that you've got to change something to go get it. And you'd rather not admit it to yourself because you don't want to go through all the work that's going to be required. Or you're going to have to say, I know that's what I really want to do, but for all these other reasons, I'm not going to do it. And that becomes a trap as well, right? That's a hard place to live as well.
Yeah. Yeah. What about if the why behind it is so simple that, your real why is you just want to stay home with your family or something, where it's not seemingly motivating or doesn't look like it's a high achiever thing. And there's a lot of judgment around that. Then,
Yeah.
You've got another
Yeah.
situation. But what do you just encourage people to be authentic and live into that?
Yeah, because if you go back to the regret thing, you're going to get to the end of your life and say, I miss this time with my family. I miss this time with my children. And for what, And so society and other people judge so harshly these days that it's not surprising that people are scared to do things that they don't think society is going to say is a cool thing. And so I think those pressures, cannot be underestimated. But to give people permission to kind of chase their why is a really important part of a friendship or leadership, actually. Uh, so people can be who they want to be, live the life they want to live.
So in the leadership space, you see a lot of people who are trying to take back their leadership, power of influence or persuasion or whatever, just within their own practice on a simple level because they don't know how to manage people on one hand. And then you see people who they want to learn leadership so they can advance their careers. But one of the recurring themes also that we hear in this space a lot when you get people to open up is that people who you think would be high net worth have a lot of money problems from time to time. And you'll see that people are struggling. They'll tell you they can't afford to invest in themselves in a leadership program because of money and then all sorts of things where you're shocked to hear that there's something going on. How do you help people in a situation like that? Is there a way to help guide people to show them how leadership is going to help them to take back, their ability to earn more, grow more faster, whatever, or manage their money better for that matter?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you can get very granular and say if you could change your work environment through better leadership, you might not lose employees. You might keep your best employees longer. There, right there is a massive financial gain, right? So the money you invest in yourself to learn the skills to do that has a payoff that's is preventing a loss. And a lot of times humans don't see the benefit of preventing a loss as much as they see the benefit of gaining something, right? I think dentists, what is the average debt today of a dental student that graduates? Close to $300,000. So if you take a leadership course that you have to spend $4, $5, $10,000 after you've already spent $300,000, and that extra money is what's going to help you be successful and be more profitable. You've spent the 300 on getting a bunch of technical skills. Now you do need to spend a little bit on yourself to be able to maximize those technical skills and that education that you got as a dentist. And it is easy to talk yourself out of it. I get it. I understand that. But I think the people who are playing the long game and who are looking for trying to be successful 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years from now, and maybe taking where they would have been in 25 years and have it happen in 10, know that investing in them, this extra type of skill or capability, in a way, it's no different than going to take a course in how to place implants, but we sort of see the benefit of that right away, right? We can see how that's going to help. And this is really no different. It's sort of how do I take care of my people and my patients in a different way?
Yeah, no, and I agree with you as well on that because, as you know, they haven't taught a lot of that in dental school or don't still, right? They just started teaching implants and some other skill sets, but it's the skills of leadership, of influence, of managing your team, the training we do on elite team training or, management of yourself is so important. So I agree with that. It's the long game and it's the most important game and to take care of yourself. And that's what resonated with me with what you said as well about all these other influences in the dental space, particularly, but in others where everyone's worried about what other people are going to think and do. But in fact, you need to be responsible for yourself and your own well-being. Ultimately, you're the only one that's going to do that. No one else is just going to do that for you, right? So I think there needs to be reminders of that in courses and leadership courses that you do with colleagues or mentors that help remind people that you're the most important part of that equation, the individual.
Yeah, well put. And so I gotta tell you, as we wrap up, I really appreciate you sharing your story about being fired. Okay. How many people don't share stories like that, right? And put that out there on the table because, here you are this late in your career with this much influence and everybody knows who you are, who you are. We've seen you on stages for countless years. That's one of those stories nobody would even believe. You would never think that that could be possible at this stage in the game. And so it's just, again, another insight that people get put on their paths many different ways. So I think that's awesome. I really appreciate you sharing that.
Sure.
There's so many more questions I could ask you about leadership, but if you could say that there was one thing, one element that really sets your leadership courses apart from everybody else, because everybody seems to think that they can offer leadership courses these days now, what would you say sets you apart the most? Obviously, your people, your caliber of people who are involved unquestionably sets you apart. But is there anything else that you would add to that?
So we are very focused on the human side of leadership. I think there's a lot of programs out there that want to teach you everything. They want to teach you the mechanics of leadership or the management side, things to do with systems and processes. And those are certainly really, really important things to do. But I think if you focus on that only, there's a ceiling to how much you can accomplish. Because I think the most impactful leaders, the ones that have made the biggest difference, are the most human leaders. And we've seen this, that if you can, I think leadership is the key capability that allows a group of people to do far more together than they ever could have done alone. And that's what we're focusing on. So that's what makes our course different. That's why it's not for everybody, because there'll be some people who just don't believe in that. But we're looking to be able to work with and partner with and teach people who do believe that having a great team is the path to being the best possible, most successful possible person that they can be as an individual, but also have this impact that will make them look back on their life and go, wow, I really was part of something important that mattered. So for us, that's really where we have this sort of laser-like focus rather than dilute it away and try and be everything to everybody. We don't believe that being everything to everybody is really the game changer.
Yeah, I love that. So, yeah, so it's people centered. And obviously, you're showing that through the leadership that you have. If there was a way that we could help you, Michael and myself, whether you think of it now or later, I want
Oh,
to put it
thank you.
on the table that we would love to support you in the work you're doing because I think it's awesome. I'd love to be a part of what you're doing, hands down. And I'd love to see what's next for you with your potential because I feel like you've hit such a pinnacle of success and yet you probably know that you still haven't even tapped your potential. And so I'm curious what's next for you, whether, you see what's coming or otherwise.
Yeah, and I just want to say as well, Sree, I do appreciate your friendship and appreciate your mentorship and to those folks that are hearing you for the first time or seeing you for the first time, you are the real deal, and the people that know you're the real deal, and you inspire a lot of people in the dental community, and now with your new venture, healthcare and other industries. So, keep doing what you're doing. I appreciate you, and thank you for being on our podcast.
Yeah,
You both are
really.
you're way too kind. Thank you so much.
For our listeners out there, make influential dental. You can find us on Instagram, and definitely, we have an event coming up at the end of the year that Mike and I are co-hosting called ADI 2025. You can go to ADI2025.com. We do this podcast in collaboration with American Dental Institute, and so we'd love to have you come out to that. It's a 2-day event. It's a stellar speaker lineup. Would love to have you there. Actually, Dr. Koka, are you speaking at it? Yeah, you are speaking at it this year. So that's right. So please join us. You could register at ADI2025.com again and probably get early bird tickets. It's a lot of fun. We have so much fun at that event. We literally do so much communing with the people there. And so if you come out, you'll meet the speakers. With everybody will go to dinner. We'll go and, just hang out. And they usually have live music. It's just a really fun event. So I'm stoked that you're going to be there. That's right.
Thank you both. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.